Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And it might be best classified as a double bonus because we don't just have one guest with us today. We actually have two guests with us today, and definitely going to cover a subject that I know that's going to hit home for many of us, and if not all of us, certainly we all know someone who could benefit from this information. We have Dr. Rallie McAllister, it's Rallie McAllister, I keep getting that wrong, as well as Jennifer Reich, and they are the founders of a very cool, let's call it effort, because it's got lots of different things going on, called the Mommy MD Guides. They've got actually 4 books. The 4th just came out. We're talking about it a lot today. They also have a wonderful website called mommymdguides.com. Rallie McAllister and Jennifer Reich, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. It's great to be with you.
Well, ladies, if you don't mind, I want to get started with just tell me a little bit about Mommy MD Guides All Up and why you started it, because it is quite a unique thing.
Thank you. Well, Rallie and I thought how fascinating it is when someone is both a doctor and a mother. They have this incredible knowledge as both a physician and a mom. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to pull all this incredible advice and tips and experiences that they have into a book series and website? And so we launched our first book, The Mommy MD Guide to Pregnancy and Birth, and it really seems to resonate with people. I think people really respect the advice of other moms, and if the moms are also doctors, even more so. And so we think of our Mommy MD Guides as experts squared.
I really like that. I think it's so important. One of the things I've noticed in my time away from the research desk and out working with individuals is there is so much that is shared. We're all people, but there's also so much that is unique. And being able to work with people who not only have that scientific background, but can also share in the life experiences seems quite important. What have you seen as being the biggest differences between the advice or approach given by MDs, which also happen to be mommies, than MDs who might not yet be mommies?
You know, Jonathan, I think that one of the things as a physician that alarms us as mothers, physicians who are also mothers the most, is that we know everything that can be wrong. We studied it all in med school, and there's actually kind of a phenomenon in med school that every new disease you study, you actually get as a med student, or at least you think you get it. I think our first child as a Mommy MD guide, the first child is pretty scary because we imagine all these things that can go wrong. But, that's like all moms. We have these fears, and as time goes on, we get more confident. And pretty soon, Mommy MD guides are just like every other mom, but we have a little bit of specialized knowledge. But what might surprise you is that most physicians who are also moms do not overtreat their children. They don't give them, necessarily more antibiotics or more tests or things like that. We just try to do what's best for our children and try to share that with others.
And one issue that I know hits home, certainly with, it must be every mom out there, at least every mom I've ever met, is not only taking care of the child, but taking care of yourself. Obviously, being both a physician and a mother or even a father, there's an immense amount of time and pressure demands. How can mothers not only keep their children healthy, but keep themselves healthy physically and mentally?
That is such a good question, and that's actually something that comes up again and again and again when we talk to and hear from our readers, that one of the biggest challenges they face is balance. And so often when you're trying to balance your home and your work and your family, the thing that gets lost in the mix is yourself. And so that is something that we talk to with all of our doctors, and something that we find they're so qualified to speak of because these women are busy. I often joke when I talk to them on the phone that Mommy MD guides are some of the busiest people on the planet.
they have their careers, they have their families, and a lot of them have side businesses as well. And so I think that it really is meaningful to our readers when our doctors have these fabulous tips that they actually use for themselves. So they're proven, and they're so creative because these women don't have time to mess around with things that don't work. So we find a lot of wonderful tips from these doctors about just that.
Wonderful. Ladies, I'm going to pause this real quick here. I'm sorry. So I think, Jennifer, there's that feedback we talked about earlier is getting a little worse.
I'm so sorry, Jonathan.
That's okay. Do you have any other microphone or anything like that?
I don't. I wonder if I could move my computer a little bit.
Yeah, it's not end of days. I just don't want you, worst case scenario, we'll keep going. People can hear it. I just don't want you to be like, why didn't someone say something? Like when you hear it, you're going to hear it. So I just don't want you to be like, what's going on there? So.
Sure. I'm so
Usually
sorry.
that's me. Usually it's on my end here.
Okay, no problem at all. Okay, well, no problem. We can trim this all up, so don't worry at all. And I'll see what we can do in post-production. But okay, anyway, we'll keep going. No worries, and resume. All right, ladies. Well, one of the key things in terms of maintaining that health is this conflation we often see between weight and health, because we gain weight. Well, not we. I'm a guy. Women gain weight when they get pregnant, and then oftentimes there's issues with weight after pregnancy. Can we talk a little bit about the distinction? So certainly that happens. Is that really a problem, or is it more just a desire to not have happen? Are there health concerns, or is it really more just about how we're feeling about ourselves?
Both, really. Certainly, we all know that, excess weight contributes to dozens and dozens of health problems and diseases and conditions. So it is a very real risk. But, when we're young and a lot of times in our childbearing years, as young mothers, that's not necessarily a motivating factor, knowing that, in 2 or 10 or 5 years, I could get diabetes because I'm carrying this excess weight. For the younger mommies, a lot of times this is a huge, determinant of how we feel about ourselves. And if we don't feel that we're at our ideal weight, we don't feel attractive, we don't feel productive, we don't feel good about ourselves. So both physically and emotionally, excess weight causes a lot of problems. And the good news is, it is entirely possible to lose weight and to get in better health, regardless of, where you are right this very minute. So I think that anyone who's carrying a few excess pounds, whether it's after pregnancy, before, you should take heart in that. It's entirely possible to lose it and to feel good emotionally and physically, with every pound that you lose.
Rallie and Jennifer, how do we balance? There's so much research and statistics around just how important it is to take care of our health so that our children become healthy. We know now that it's estimated that the current generation of children could be the first in U.S. history to live less healthy and shorter lives than their parents. We've also seen research I'm sure you're familiar with where having a child while we are metabolically either diabetic or have prediabetes, where just the uterine environment is metabolically unhealthy, can predispose the fetus to experience problems. And we've even potentially seen things over multiple generations, meaning that what we put into our body now can affect our grandchildren. So how do we balance, fear is a powerful motivator, but it's often not the motivator I would prefer to use. So how do we balance this moral need to keep our children healthy and to enable them to thrive while also not beating ourselves up when we can't be perfect?
That's a good question. You touched on something that we talk about quite a lot in our book about finding the motivation to get healthy and to lose weight. And one thing that we talk a lot about and offer a lot of tips from our doctors is that motivation is going to be different for everyone. And sometimes it can be a little tricky to uncover what the motivation is for you. And so one thing, of course, that all of our doctors and most of our readers have in common is that they're moms and some even grandmoms. And so for many of them, you're absolutely right. A strong motivator is to involve their children. They want to be healthy as an example for their children. They want to be healthy, to be around longer with their children. And they want to have healthy behaviors in the home so their children are directly healthy by serving healthy vegetables, exercise. So we really hope that our book will help women by the many examples that we give to kind of reach deeper within themselves and find that motivation for both losing weight and also feeling great.
And I'm gonna be a little bit selfish here, ladies. I need some personal advice, if that's okay. Do you mind?
Not at all.
From the guru, sure.
From the mommy MD guides themselves, directly from the source.
No, you know it all.
Yeah, I
We'll
wish.
take a shot, though.
So no, this is something that I can't know because I will never be a mommy. So it's my impression or my belief that I like to think of smoking and children and mothers because given how much we now know smoking is bad for you, I have yet to ever meet a mother who will facilitate her, let's say, 5-year-old smoking cigarettes. It's abhorrent. It's not something that would happen. It seems that the more and more and more we learn about products that happen to be edible, which is not the same as food, but products that happen to be edible in terms of their addiction, in terms of their life-shortening effects, in terms of their permanent health consequences, the line between, we don't tell people to smoke in moderation and we would never give our child a cigarette as a treat, are we starting... I mean, just what's going on there? Why is there such a sharp distinction in our minds between I would never, ever give my child a cigarette, but anything that's edible is fair game?
Oh, Jonathan, that is a beautiful analogy. I never thought of it quite like that, but you are so right. Of course, I've observed this. I think the problem is, for some reason, we just haven't made the link yet. Intellectually, we know it. We know this, well, we won't call it food, this thing that is edible that has no nutritional value that we give our child, we know that rationally is not good for them, but food has such an emotional connection. And I think that we still have this old mindset that was instilled by, maybe our parents, that food is a reward. Sugary food is a reward, and to withhold food there's just something that we can't, do that emotionally yet. I think with future generations, though, I am seeing in my own patients, I'm seeing the tide turn, and we are learning that no, it's not a reward to give your child a food that will contribute to obesity, diabetes, early death, and so on. I think it's coming, but I love your analogy. That is brilliant, and more of us should think of it like that.
Well, I love what you say about when we. It's that food. It's that word food. It's that mindset food because food, that which we need, that which we must have or else we die. The idea of depriving ourselves of that, and I would agree, is bad. We need to eat more food. I'm just curious how, especially even as physicians, for example, drugs. Drugs are things we put into our body that we're very careful about and we're very selective about, and we would never just take a prescription that isn't for us in moderation. So when you look at a lot of what we eat today, it's not food. It is more analogous. If you read the ingredients list, it looks much more like something you would find in a pharmaceutical cabinet. So how can we – it seems like we have such a powerful mind because we've already seen what it can do when it understands the negative powers of smoking and the negative powers of drugs. How can we bridge the gap between just because it's sold in a supermarket doesn't mean it's food?
That's interesting. We actually have talked to our Mommy MD guides for all of our books quite a lot about nutrition. And so when we interview the doctors, we always ask them, well, what do you do? What do you eat? How do you cook meals for your family? And it's amazing. We have more than 150 Mommy MD guides now on our team. And most of the time, if you asked 150 of them a question, you get 150 different answers. But there are a few things that actually are amazingly universal, and this is one of them. They tell us over and over, when I go to the grocery store, I shop the perimeter. I buy fresh produce, I buy milk, I buy fresh meats, and then they say that they take time to prepare those meals at home. And I think by that, putting healthy food in their body, and they're also offering their kids and setting a good example. You certainly would know. I think I would fall off my chair if one of our Mommy MD guys told me that they gave their kids as a snack, something that you've been kind of alluding to. I just don't think it would happen. So I think that we need to turn to experts like these doctors who are also mothers and see what they do and what they recommend for their own families and kind of use that as our guide.
And what do you say when the most common response I hear when conversations like this take place are, I agree, but I just can't. Like I'm just too busy. For example, and even at my child's school, someone feeds them these other foods. Like I can't control what my child's doing outside of my house. I don't have the time. I don't have the control. How do we answer those questions?
It is a lot of that is going to start with your determination to do it. And I know, I live in the same world. I know it is extremely hard. My kids get junk at school. They ask for junk. They see junk at the grocery store. They want it all. But it starts with your mind. If your child or if you were diagnosed with diabetes, for example, next week, you would take the time to take control. You would find a way. So, the answer is then let's do this on the front end. Let's don't wait till something bad happens. Let's go ahead and take charge and do it right now. And how do you do it? You just get in there and do it. Our kids, what we bring into the home is what our children eat mostly. So you don't bring junk into the home. If you don't want your children to eat it, don't bring it home. Or if you don't want to eat it. So it all starts with the grocery store, and even before that with a list, or even before that, checking out the nutrition labels online. Buy good stuff, buy wholesome. You cannot go wrong with wholesome food. Bring that home, and then feed your children at home every opportunity that you get. Pack lunches. I packed my children's lunches, and that was a huge ordeal while they were little, trying to find ways to make food that could compete with the junk that they offered, from pizza places and other fast food joints that were actually in my kids' school cafeteria. So it is very, very challenging, and it's challenging for everyone, and it takes a lot of time, but it is that important. Your life depends on it, and your children's lives depend on it.
Well said. The analogy you gave, or the comparison you gave to if someone told you or your child was diagnosed with a condition that required this, somehow you would figure out how to prevent these things from happening. A great example is allergies, peanut allergies. There are, if your child has peanut allergy, you better believe there's millions, might be an exaggeration. I don't know how many people have peanut allergies. Let's say millions. There's millions of mothers that successfully shield their children from peanuts. I wonder if we could start thinking of ourselves as allergic to these edible products, because we are. It's just that we don't have an allergic reaction immediately. It takes a few years to set in, and then it can be fatal. If that would help motivate us, what do you think?
I think that's fascinating. I love that idea. I'm actually going to start to think of it that way myself. I think that's great. One thing that I have tried that also I think is helpful is one of our Mommy MD guides had mentioned this, where words to use sometimes for children is, in our family, we ... And I find myself doing that more and more as my boys are getting older with things like food and things like my son maybe might come home from school with a little pack of gummy candy and he wants to eat it, of course. And I say, no, in our family, we don't eat that because it's not healthy for our bodies. And it's amazing how that accomplishes so many things. It's getting the point across. It's also kind of like strengthening our bond because it's our family. And it also acknowledges that other people have different rules and different experiences and different beliefs. So I find that becoming kind of a go-to phrase these days.
Our family, that is such a profound distinction. And what do you find also, just with that language, which is so important, saying things like our family, and then have you found anything, or have the Mommy MD guides given any advice around using the word no a lot? I'm not a parent myself, but I've heard that can be counterproductive the more you say no to things. So is there a way to say yes or how does that work?
You're going to love being a parent. Yeah, no. Whew. if you don't watch yourself, that will become your word of choice. So yes, you always want, as a parent, to give a child choices that are win-win. And the way I did it when my kids were young was, oh, it's time for a snack. Would you rather have an orange or an apple? Would you rather have celery stalks, or would you rather have carrot slices? Win-win choice. There are two stages in a child's life that they're going to take control if they can, and they're going to be rebellious. And I think that's in the twos. And they'll be telling you what they're going to have to eat in the teen years. And so with toddlers, it's very, very important to give them choices, and teenagers, give them their own choices, but always give them a win-win choice. Make it two good things. And for my teenagers, they now have free roam of the kitchen. I don't follow them around and say, would you rather have this or this? But the way they make their choices is they can have anything that they can find in the kitchen to eat, and it's all good stuff.
And have you had any insights from your mommy MDs? I always like to look at examples of either cultures or people who have success, try to think about like how they're having success and if we can carry over anything like that. And not many people present it this way, but there's quite a few religions which have fairly stringent dietary restrictions. And these religions are not, people who practice these religions are not always in cultures which practice the exact same religion. So now they have these dietary restrictions that they and their entire family follow, despite the fact that everywhere around them, people are not following it. How do you think these families seem to so reliably do that which no one else is doing and don't, at least on the surface, seem to struggle as much with it?
That is so fascinating. I'm so glad you asked the question and in the way that you asked it, because one thing that is fascinating about our Mommy MD Guides books and brand actually is that although all of our doctors are also mothers, they're all from incredibly diverse backgrounds. They are from different specialties. So it's interesting that they bring, some are pediatricians, some are psychiatrists, some are dermatologists, and they have children of all different age range. Some are just pregnant and some are grandmoms. And also, as you mentioned, they come from many different religious backgrounds and different areas of the country, different societies. So one story comes immediately to mind at your question, and that is several of our families keep kosher. And so I asked, well, how does that affect the way that you eat and feed your children? And one thing I found fascinating is they said they don't go out to eat very often, and when they do, they only order vegetarian meals. I thought that's a terrific idea. And one of my favorite tips from one of our doctors along that topic is when they go out to dinner, she has 4 little boys, and their ages 5, 7, 9, and 11. And so when they go out to a restaurant, in order to keep them busy and keep them behaved and encourage them to eat healthy, as soon as they sit down, she orders a side dish vegetable for them to eat. And so the boys, rather than messing around with things on the table and maybe getting distracted, they fill up on some healthy vegetable, and then they eat a good dinner. So I thought that was a pretty neat tip.
It certainly is. I actually have to apologize. I have this big list of notes, and I'm on like point 2 because we've got there's so much good stuff here. So we're gonna have to have you ladies back for sure, because I'm gonna go off script again here, because this is an area that not being a mommy or a daddy, I do not know a lot about, and these are very fascinating tips, and it matters to so many people. So I'm going to be selfish again, and I need your help on something I'm struggling to wrap my head around, and that is, let me see if I can describe this correctly. So I'm drawing like a little timeline on a piece of paper in front of me, and at the very start of the timeline I have a circle, and in that circle is 0 to 9 months. That's a gestation period. And when our child is in utero, it would seem globally, that is the time when most people are the most sensitive, just generally with what they eat. Like, we know, like, you're pregnant, oh my gosh, like, you can't eat that. Like, even as a culture, we want to support people who are pregnant so that they can ensure they're giving their bodies what they need to feed their children appropriately. And then after the child is born, we're still generally hypersensitive to that. But then there's this very quickly we transition into, let's call it the kids menu phase.
Right.
where a kid's menu is by definition, like what makes a food suitable for the kids menu and not for the adult menu? What makes children's cereal and not adult cereal? Poison, basically. So how do we as a culture go from we're going to do everything we can to protect this developing person to the least possible? Like we say, oh, they're a kid, they can handle it. Well, they're a kid. It's children's food. How do we make that giant jump?
I don't know, Jonathan. If you can figure that out, you will have the secret to future good health. I just don't know. I mean, we are so kid focused these days. We want to please our children. We want to nurture and love them and spoil them. And so many of us still equate that with feeding. And I don't know. I think there are a lot of people working on that problem, with the public health department, education, and things like that. But I mean, part of it too, the food industry has to take some responsibility. When baby bottles are branded with soft drink logos, that's not good. We need to get the food industry and their advertising to help, because that seems to be one of the main forms of education for us. But I do not know. It is really appalling. And when I'm seeing in my office 4-year-olds that weigh 150 pounds, it devastates me. I think it's akin to abuse. But when the parents aren't educated, it's hard to hold them accountable. So I think education, especially, I live in the Appalachian region, and we have a lot of this problem here, and we need more education. And so keep doing what you're doing.
Well, and in terms of that education, this is going to get back to a point I was making earlier. And again, I'm going to get back to smoking. Again, it seems like pretty universally we understand that we shouldn't give our children cigarettes. Another thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around, I don't mean to be like selfish and make the podcast about me, but I need some mommy MD guidance, is with smoking, even if your child smokes, the worst thing in quotations, I mean, obviously this is bad, but it's going to harm their physical health. But psychologically, you're not necessarily going to be teased, ridiculed, called fatty, not picked to go to prom because you smoke. However, if you are fed fattening foods, not only does that damage you physically, but it steals your entire childhood. I don't know anyone who was overweight as a child that enjoyed that experience emotionally. So it's like that 1-2 punch.
That makes a tremendous amount of sense. And I think right now in our work with our next book, we're hoping to help to educate the moms so that they improve their own health and their own life, with hoping that a lot of that's going to have a trickle-down effect to the children. And it's something that certainly is a great topic to take on, of then how do you help children to stay healthier too. Maybe that's the future book.
Well, and I love, speaking of your new book and speaking more of hopeful topics, because it does seem that starting with, if I can't keep myself healthy and fit, it will probably be very challenging for me to help my child stay healthy and fit, because we do lead by example. And also the same knowledge would apply to, that which is poisonous for a small child is generally also poisonous for a large child, because we're all kids at heart. So in your new book, the Mommy MD Guide to Losing Weight and Feeling Great, what have you found is unique to the mothering situation that we can do to lose the extra pounds and feel great?
I think most of our Mommy MD guides, you hit on a very important part. They start by feeding themselves as a nutritious diet as they can. And it's not always about, when we think of diet, we think of, I've got to lose weight and I've got to eat, tiny little portions. I think most of our Mommy MD guides approach diet as meaning a nutrition plan. And they don't starve themselves. They don't do crazy, fad diets or things like that. They're really eating with an eye toward getting the maximum benefit out of the food that they put into their bodies, for their bodies. They're looking for food that will give them energy. They're looking for food that will heal them. They're looking for food that tastes good and satisfies them. And so you're right. When I feed myself a healthy diet, my children, especially young children, because, we are the most important role model for our children, will follow suit. And, in a practical term, that's all they'll have to eat, because they'll be eating in the same kitchen that I am. So I think our Mommy MD guides, in asking how do they strive to lose weight, what do they do differently? They look for food that provides maximum benefit, and we didn't hear any Mommy MD guide say, oh my gosh, I'm going to, try to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. They want to trend back toward an ideal weight, and they do it in a very slow and controlled fashion. They don't have any, big plans of wearing a size 4 tomorrow, because they want to be able to function well as professionals and as mothers while they are working back toward their ideal body weight.
Yeah, they can't just go to the ranch for 6 months and spend 12 hours a day.
Right, the sauna, eating a carrot.
So in terms of, we're bombarded day in and day out with the media of like, watch out for this, and at 11 p.m., 6 things in your cupboard that are going to kill your kids, and just tips, and there's all this different information coming in. It can become paralyzing at times. If we had to do just one thing, even if it's a big thing, a lot of the tips we've already talked about on the show are create an environment that facilitates health, meaning do not have fattening edible products in your home. Be that example. And these are all things that would permeate everyone. It's not just the mommy, it's not just the child, it's everyone in the household, creating that environment and setting that example. Is that like the Uber tip, or is there one Uber tip?
I think that a lot of things that you kind of touched on kind of come together with what we're thinking of as the catchline for our book, which is be the best mom that you can be. And if I have that as my goal, that I want to be the best mom, then that's going to help motivate me and drive me towards all of the healthy behaviors that are going to not only help me to lose weight and feel great, but also help my children have healthy, happy lives. So, for example, if I keep in mind that I want to be the best mom that I can be, I'm going to have a cup of water on my desk, and I'm going to sip from it throughout the day, which is going to help my energy, which is going to help my mood, which is going to help my weight. I'm also going to make healthier choices. And when I leave my desk here later this afternoon to go prepare dinner, I'm not going to reach for the phone and call for the delivery down the street. Instead, I'm going to prepare a healthy meal from the healthy ingredients that I purchased around the perimeter of the store. And after dinner, I'm probably not going to sit down on a couch with a bag of chips. I'm going to encourage my family, hey guys, it's a beautiful day out in the neighborhood. Let's go outside and play Frisbee for a little bit. And then as the night winds down and it's time to get ready for sleep, I'm going to follow some of the tips that our doctors gave in the book. I'm going to turn off my iPad. I'm going to turn off my laptop. I might relax with a little bit of television, but again, I won't have a bag of chips in my hands. And I'm going to try to turn in early for the night so that I get a good night's sleep that's going to be healthy for my body. So again, I can wake up tomorrow and be the best mom that I can be. So
I love it. I love it. Well, that book that we were just talking about is called the Mommy MD Guide to Losing Weight and Feeling Great. And we've been talking with none other than Dr. Rallie McAllister as well as Jennifer Reich. And if you want to learn more about all of their great work, just check out mommymdguides.com. And for the guys out there, don't feel like you've been neglected, because there's also daddymdguides.com, which I just discovered on your website. So I'm going to give that a look. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. It's absolutely been a pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's an honor to be here with you today. I so appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.